Well, now to our first case this month. Most murders are committed by someone who knows his or her victim and who has a very clear motive. Cases of indiscriminate killers who kill more than once are rare. But last month it seems that one man met and then murdered two young women in the space of 36 hours. And police are convinced that this is the type of killer who will attack again. So your help on this next case is vital. Our reconstruction starts on the night of Saturday the 24th of January in the Bayswater area of West London. Marina Monte was a heroin addict who worked as a prostitute to finance her habit. She was 27. She had no family in England, only a boyfriend who was also an addict. On the night she died, she set out at about 10:30 to look for business around Bayswater and Paddington. She usually headed towards Sussex Gardens, but there've still been no specific sightings of her that evening. Her killer may have been among her first clients. Mitre Bridge railway junction, Scrobbs Lane, 3 miles from Paddington. At about 11 o'clock that night, the signalman noticed something unusual. A car turned into the service road beside the railway and stopped there for some 4 or 5 minutes. In the darkness, the signalman could see only that it was a small car. He couldn't make out what the driver was doing. Marina's body was found there by a railway worker at 7:15 the next morning. She'd been strangled, and her boots and handbag were missing. Rachel Atherwaite also worked as a prostitute in the same area of West London. She was 23. Rachel lived in a DHSS hotel in Earl's Court with her 20-year-old boyfriend, Ian. They'd been together for 6 months and had frequent arguments, usually about money.
I gave you some last week.
I bloody spent it, didn't I? I need some more. I've got our clothes, haven't I?
How much do you want?
20 quid.
20 quid?
That's my money anyway.
Rachel depended on Ian for friendship and companionship. She rarely saw her family. Her mother was in hospital and her father and sister lived in Oxfordshire. On the afternoon of Saturday the 24th of January, the same day that Marina died, Rachel and her boyfriend watched television in their tiny hotel bedroom. They were there until 6:30 and it was time to go out looking for business.
Nothing else on?
I just came in, I just turned it on.
Rachel had moved to London some 4 years ago and had worked as a prostitute ever since. She could be loud and aggressive and had an increasing drink problem. Shortly before 7 p.m, they arrived at Cleveland Terrace, where Rachel usually stood waiting for passing motorists to pick her up. She was soon approached by a man in an orange Mini.
Okay.
Okay.
Ian always checked out the customers. She usually spent 20 minutes to half an hour with each customer, but it was 2 hours before she reappeared at Cleveland Terrace. She was drunk and Ian was furious.
Where the bloody hell have you been?
I know, Johnny, right.
You've been drinking?
A cab driver witnessed the row, and anyone else there would remember it too.
Calm down! Where the hell do you think you're going? Hey, I'm not far higher. Get out of bloody cab!
Leave me alone!
Get out! Bloody cab!
Leave me alone!
Come on!
The cab driver saw them disappear in opposite directions. Ian got back to the hotel at about 11 o'clock, but he didn't see Rachel again, that night or ever.
9 to 6. Where's 9? 9 to 6. On its own.
Well, who put this one down?
Me.
You?
The next anyone heard of Rachel was the following day, Sunday, at around 12:30. Her father was making his daily visit to her grandfather in an old people's home in Oxfordshire.
Hello, Dad.
Are you still at the hotel?
No, I'm not there anymore. I'm staying with a friend at the moment.
He didn't know where she was ringing from or why she rang him that day.
Yeah, well, look, I've got to go now because my money's running out.
Well, look after yourself then. Goodbye.
bloody drinks and that. You gonna get me enough?
But at 9:30 that Sunday night, Rachel was seen with a man and a girlfriend in the King's Head pub, Edgware Road. And again, she was heading for a row.
If she comes over here, she's bloody gonna get a load. I'll tell her, I'll bloody sort her out.
The girls who were laughing at her noticed she was wearing an odd, rather old-fashioned two-piece outfit that was much too big for her.
Oh, no. I'd love to know if she gets her gear from. It really is something of a joke. How not to look.
And she was attracting further ridicule at the pool table.
She's like a grotesque little man, isn't she?
Rachel had had enough.
You stupid slag!
It was a fight that everyone in the pub that night certainly witnessed.
Time, ladies and gentlemen, please.
Closing time was 10:30. The events which followed the fight are crucial if police are to find her killer.
Look, just forget it, all right? I'm going to the loo.
Where Rachel went next is still a mystery. It was the last time she was seen alive. She tottered out of the pub, clutching a white plastic bag. The man she was with has still not been traced. A couple of minutes later, the man followed her out. Police don't know whether the two met up again outside. The next day at Sumner Place in Chelsea. There's a row of lock-up garages behind the flats there. At about midday, a resident returned to her garage after 24 hours away. Rachel's body had probably been dumped from a car, as Marina Monte's had. And like Marina, she'd been strangled, and her boots were missing too. Well, Detective Superintendent Jim Hutchinson, both Rachel and Marina worked around the same area, and our map here shows where Marina went. We don't actually have much information about her, do we?
No, she left the hotel at about 10:30 that night. We'd like to hear from anyone who saw her leave the hotel or saw her in that area, because our next client could have been her killer.
Right. Now, you have a lot more information on Rachel's movements before she died. First of all, the driver of the orange Mini, which picked her up that Saturday night, he hasn't come forward.
No, he hasn't, and that's very important to us. She was off for a period of about 2 hours with him, and we'd like to know where she went, who she went with. It's very important to us.
She told her father on the telephone that she was staying with a friend. You don't know yet who that friend could be.
No, that's correct. She did stay with a friend. We're sure of that. We haven't found out who he is, but she had a change of clothing, you see. The clothing you see on the screen at the present moment is actually the clothing she was wearing.
That's the only picture we have of the actual clothes she wore.
Yes, that's true. That clothing is vital to us because she changed into it. Her boyfriend hasn't seen it before. It may lead us to the friend or indeed give us vital information. It had a label on the back of it, Sue. You can see on the screen it was Warren Petite. That's the manufacturer, but there were two names on it, and with the use of ultraviolet we managed to bring up the name P. Suarez and also the initials TK. We'd like to hear from either P. Suarez or TK who are able to say, well, that's a uniform that I wore, because I think it probably belonged to someone working into the hotel or catering trade.
Right, absolutely vital.
Yes.
The other thing is that the man seen drinking with her that last night in the King's Head and Edgware Road hasn't come forward either.
No, he hasn't, and he definitely is vital to our inquiry. Yes, he's a man of continental appearance, probably Greek or Arabic. He's about 5'9" in height, aged 35 to 45. His hair is black and it's got specks of grey in it. He's wearing gold-rimmed spectacles, and although we're not sure about the clothing, he may have had a ski jacket on. On his left finger, or finger of his left hand, he had a large medallion ring.
And somebody must have seen her at closing time after when the pub closed that night in the Edgware
Yes,
Road.
certainly. She was very, very drunk, and she couldn't have got away from there on her own. She may have been pushed into a vehicle. It's vital that anyone who saw her on the busy Edgware Road at about 10:30 that Sunday come forward and talk to us.
Is it possible that other prostitutes might be able to help?
Yes, there's a possibility. Many of the girls actually travelled down from the Midlands, from Coventry, Nottingham and Huddersfield, Many of these girls haven't appeared on the streets since. They can indeed help us. We'd like to hear from them.
Mr. Hutchinson, thank you. And if you think you can offer any information about either Rachel Atherwaite or Marina Monte, and particularly their movements over that weekend beginning the 24th of January last month, please ring us in the studio here on 01 811 8055 or call the incident room at Kensington Police Station on 01 741 6212. That's 01 741 6212.